In the often conflicting world of nutrition science, where one week eggs are heroes and the next they're villains, the public can be forgiven for feeling confused. Much of this confusion stems not from bad science, but from the challenges of interpreting it. Nutrition research relies heavily on observational studies, which can suggest correlations but rarely prove cause and effect. Enter the burden of proof approach, a novel method of meta-analysis that aims to bring more clarity and consistency to the interpretation of nutritional evidence. By weighting results based on study quality, consistency, and effect size, it offers a more cautious, but ultimately more trustworthy lens through which to assess dietary risk and benefit. Traditional meta-analyses aggregate data from multiple studies to estimate an average effect, but they often treat all studies as equal or weight them primarily by sample size. This can be misleading, especially when some studies have stronger methodologies or better controls for confounding variables than others. The burden of proof method introduces a rigorous correction for study quality, publication bias, heterogeneity, and other limitations. It asks not just what the average result is, but how confident we can be in that result given the flaws and variation in the data. The result is often more conservative effect estimates, but ones that are less likely to overstate conclusions. For example, rather than declaring that processed meat increases cancer risk by 18%, this method might suggest that, based on available evidence, there is a moderate to high probability of a small but meaningful increase in risk with quantified uncertainty. That may sound like a step back, but it's a move toward greater scientific integrity. Instead of giving false precision, it gives policymakers, clinicians, and consumers a clearer understanding of what the data can and cannot say. This approach also allows for more meaningful comparisons across different nutritional exposures. By applying a consistent framework to various foods, whether whole grains, sugary drinks, red meat, or nuts, the burden of proof method creates a sort of nutritional risk gradient, which helps prioritize interventions. It highlights where evidence is strong and actionable and where it's still evolving or weak. This is especially useful in public health, where guidelines must balance urgency with caution. One of the most important shifts this method encourages is humility. Nutrition is an inherently complex science. People eat foods, not isolated nutrients, and dietary patterns interact with genetics, lifestyle, microbiome composition, and environmental factors. The burden of proof model acknowledges that complexity rather than hiding it behind simple headlines. It moves the conversation away from absolute claims and toward probability-based reasoning, more like weather forecasting than courtroom verdicts. For the average person, this doesn't mean giving up on nutritional guidance. It means approaching dietary decisions with informed realism. When the evidence for harm is strong, such as with trans fats or heavy processed meat intake, the model confirms and quantifies those risks. When evidence is mixed or weaker, such as with moderate dairy consumption or the health effects of coffee, it highlights that uncertainty without ignoring potential benefits. This transparency helps build trust in dietary recommendations, which is essential in an era when misinformation spreads more rapidly than facts. The burden of proof approach isn't perfect, and it still depends on the underlying quality of existing studies. But as a method, it represents a much-needed evolution in how we synthesize nutrition science. It doesn't promise certainty, it offers clarity. And in a field where so much noise has made it hard to hear the signal, that alone is a significant step forward.